Welcome to Modern Wisdom with Dawn Ricci. I'm Dawn Ricci, a spiritual mentor, healer, psychic, and medium. My podcast is all about empowering you with spiritual insights on health, wellness, relationships, and careers. Join me and my guests as we navigate life's twists and turns, sharing wisdom and expanding knowledge together. Hit subscribe now to stay updated and never miss an episode. Ladies, this one is for you. We are talking about relationships and dating today. Let me set the scene for you. You have a great job. You have a great home. You have a supportive group of friends and a fabulous designer wardrobe. You have the best of everything and you achieved it all, but you have no partner. You're without a partner, no love in your life. One by one, all your friends are settling down and they're building families and they find all their life partners. And it seems like you're just kind of like navigating the only endless cycle of disappointment dates. So you've come home to an empty house once too many times, and thank God for the cat. But even he seems to avoid you. So you're done waking up alone in your king-size bed. You say, I need a relationship with a real person who loves me for me and not from my bank account and not from my lifestyle. And I'm not going to level him up, right? Just wants me. So my guest today is the love coach, Carissa Montooth. She's here to tell you 1000% you can achieve the partnership and the love that you want. So love is waiting for you, she says. Carissa shows single women that love is waiting for you. And Carissa shows single women to how to attract and date marriage-minded men without sabotage. My guest and love coach, Carissa Montooth, is here to tell you, yes, love is waiting for you. And Carissa shows single women how to attract and date marriage-minded men or marriage-minded partners without the self-sabotage. So she helps all her clients to identify their blind spots in love, heal their subconscious blocks to what love is, and navigate the dating world with grace and confidence. Carissa Montooth is also a certified sixth-generation healer, an author, and a speaker. She's been listed as the top 10 love coach featured on Yahoo Finance. Carissa holds advanced degrees in psychology and counseling, and she's written extensively about topics relating to relationships, dating, and love. Carissa, tell us about the love. Tell us about yourself, and I really want to know about the sixth healing generations that you come from. Carissa, it is so good to finally meet you. We've been planning this. You've got such a beautiful list of credentials, but what really hit me the most, and I would love for you to start off with the explanation, is you say that you are a certified sixth generation healer. So please tell us all about that.
Of course. So on my mother's side, my healing lineage comes through my mother's side. So my great-great-great-grandmother was a dowser and a naturalist. She was an herbalist and she was a midwife, and coming all the way down through her, all of the daughters through her were one or two of those things together. Those were things that she taught and that each, daughter kind of came down through the generations with. My mother and my grandmother, especially as I was growing up, they were very good at treating things herbally and also at identifying like an energetic issue at the heart of something.
Oh,
yeah. And we generally, we were kind of like that family that, we went to church and things like that growing up, but we were kind of like that family that, you would come see them about a problem you're having in your life, but maybe you didn't want everybody to know that you were coming to them for that help. So as I was growing up, I really thought that was very normal. It was just normal to me that, that there were certain types of prayer that would help to heal things, or that would help not only heal physical things, but to help heal situations,
Hmm.
you know. And that energy was like, that there was alchemy like around energy. The idea of that was really natural to me growing up. But then as I got into school and stuff like that, I was like, oh, we're weird. I was like, oh. And there's that first sort of feeling. I was like, well, that's not, everybody doesn't do that. Okay. So then I thought, okay, well, I still want to help people, but I was
Yeah,
like, I really need to do this in a way that feels legit,
right.
for other people.
Or mainstream,
Yeah, where it's like they
right?
can recognize this is a real thing, right?
Yeah, right.
So, when I went to college, I was like, okay, I'm going to major in psychology, and then I went on and got my master's degree in counseling.
Wow.
And I wrote a book about how it's called Job Hack, and it's about how you match your personality type and values with the career that you're choosing, right?
Oh,
So I would
interesting.
teach about that because I've always been fascinated by personality psychology and all of those kinds of things. I was like, personality psychology, astrology, there's interlap there, isn't there?
Yeah,
It was kind of like personality psychology is like astrology's, big sister,
yeah,
like everybody thinks is, really
yeah. And the
cool and whatever.
archetypes, right? And the
Right, yeah.
yeah, the archetypes like Carolyn Mace, she does the
Every
archetypes. That's amazing.
Yeah, anything where we can, that helps us understand our motivation, and
Hmm.
anything that helps us understand how we think about things differently than other people was always fascinating to me.
Yeah.
So I wrote that book, and then I was teaching in colleges. I was teaching classes about how to match your values and your personality type with your career. But I would have women come up to me after class, and they'd be like, I think I'm this personality type, and I think my boyfriend is this personality type. Do you think like we're gonna make it? Or they would say, how do you think we can have a conversation about becoming committed, or like taking the next step, and those kinds of things? Or they'd come up to me and they'd be like, my boyfriend is this type and I'm this type. And why do you think we broke up? And it became really clear to me in those moments, especially, that there was a really intense energy of heartbreak and loss. And that needed to be healed before they were able to go out and date again and have love and all of those things. And I was like, well, we can do that, but not in this setting, right? It's like, I can't do that in academia because that's not
Right.
part of academia, right?
Yeah.
So they're like, we are going to talk to you about how everybody else thinks about things.
Right.
That's kind of
Yeah, right,
academia.
right.
It's like, right.
Yeah.
You can learn how other people view something. Um, so I started to do that work as a coach first, and kind of like alongside of my counseling. So I was doing that as a coach, and then I had a client who, she had reached out to me, and she's like, I cannot go on another date where we meet at the food court at the mall.
Oh,
And I was like, please don't. Let's
right,
connect. Right. She's
right,
like, I just can't. This is not, there's something off energetically. Why is this happening? Everybody is that I'm being constantly approached with this type of person. Right. So we had maybe 4 or 5 sessions, and then this really intense heartache came up for her that had been kind of buried under, her trying to understand and intellectualize it. All the emotion came up, the energy came up. And
hmm,
I said, there's something we can do right now energetically that will be a healing thing. And I know it sounds weird, but if you trust me, we can do this together. Is that okay with you? And she was like, it's absolutely okay. So we did that energetic healing where we connected. And um, the next time she had a session, the next week, when she immediately just got on the call, she was like, I don't know what you did before, but we should do that every time. Like, I feel so different. She's like, I slept better than I had, and I woke up and I felt different. She's like, I felt lighter. She's like, I felt more like myself again. She's like, it was just like night and day. We should do that every time. And I was like, okay. So it was kind of like a thing of like, I kept trying to, I'm going to get these degrees so that people know that what I'm doing is legit, but it always had to come back to wholeness, right? And
in
authenticity of like,
spirit.
I'm a healer. That's what I'm
Yeah.
supposed to do. It was like,
You're a healer,
do the thing you're here to do, right?
right? And you
So,
just took it in a next level. You opened your book and really read between the lines of exactly what you needed to be as counselor, therapist, coach.
Yeah.
And that's really what it should have always been. I know that there's some sort of taboo. I mean, I think not so much anymore, but there was some sort of taboo of like, doing both of them, but oh, phooey.
Yeah.
Who
Well,
cares? Like you're
what's so
making
silly?
people feel better and you're giving people hope and you're
Right.
allowing them to step out of their comfort zone and be seen and heard, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. And what was so silly was like the thing that I thought people would think was strange actually became a strength of the way that I work with people because
Mm-hmm.
there's the background of like, there's the side of like, I do things that are proven, right? I
Mm-hmm.
do things that are researched. We start with a
Mm-hmm.
baseline and we track the differences. So it's
Yeah.
not really a matter of me just going, just have faith that this is going to work and let's cross our fingers. It's literally like these energetic principles are scientifically researched and proven, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Um, and so what it does is it helps people not just attract the new love, but become that version of them that can sustain that love, can sustain that relationship. You know, it's like the version of them that is cleared of those obstacles of believing that it's hard or believing that, we have all these beliefs as we get older, especially, right? Because we've experienced more of the world.
Yeah.
And we also have these beliefs that are harder to change because of things like that have to do with like neuroplasticity and stuff like that, right? So it's like
Yes.
harder to change our beliefs. And instead of us going, this is happening because I believe that that's the truth about life, we go, oh, I believe it because it's happening and it's the truth about life, right? And so it becomes we need to do more and we need to do things in like more of a novel way to kind of get to those beliefs, especially like as we get into like our 40s and 50s and 60s, like we have to do things a little bit differently to get to those beliefs because they're a little bit more embedded,
Yes.
you know? And so we dig into those in a different way. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's
It's just incredible. And thank you for explaining the legacies and the lineage of where that comes from, because you're absolutely divine in the way that I feel that you're handling it. I'm just going to share with you too. I don't know if you had read anything about me, but I'm a former private investigator. So you can't get it any more about facts, Jack. Give me the facts, Jack. Everything's got to be in black and white. And
my
here I
dad's a
come.
PI.
Yeah. And here I come, right? And I specialized in cheating spouses. So here I come, a person or a female. I mean, let's just say what it is. Most of my clients were women
Hmm.
come to me who have everything they ever wanted in the world, including their most incredible husband. And now they think that they know that their husband's cheating on them. They've got
Yeah.
the signs. I just have to put it in black and white for them. But I was actually a therapist for them too,
You had
because
to be.
I had to be. I had held everything in of their life, their emotions in my hand for those,
Yeah.
like, say that week that they were under surveillance, and we just needed to follow them and get the information that she needed to get her power back. And
Yeah.
that's really what it was, is I handed her the reports, I handed her the pictures and the video just to give her her power back so that
Yeah.
she could say, stop like jerking me around. I know
Yeah.
what you're doing and here's what it is,
Yeah.
and let's come to the table. Let's sit down and figure this out. Are we going to stay together and we're going to figure this out? Or am
Yeah.
I going to, are you going to kick me to the curb or I'm kicking you to the curb? Like,
Yeah.
what's going to happen? And that's the only time that truth ever came out, is when I was actually able to give them the proof, right?
Yeah. And that's so powerful. The
So
truth, knowing the
powerful,
truth about the situation is so
right?
powerful because up
And,
until then, it's just the stories that you're telling yourself to fill in the blanks for the information that you don't have.
right. And so when someone comes to you and says, I'm tired of sleeping by myself. I'm tired of having everything. I have my job, I have my bank account, I have my designer clothes, I have everything I could want,
Yeah.
but I have a cat who barely even wants to hang out with me, and I sleep in a king size bed alone.
Mm,
So it's hard for those women to change their patterns because that they've all been jilted before. They've all been
right.
let down before. They've all been used before because the more successful they get, sometimes the more the same
They
kind of guy.
attract the users. They
Oh
end
my
up attracting
God,
the
they
users and they
do.
have him over and over again. Or the
Yeah,
other thing that happens is that it's somebody who, like, so many of my clients are like C-suite executives or like, seven-figure business owners and that kind of thing, or they
yeah,
are like executives in entertainment and stuff like that. And
yeah,
so often what happens is that they're like, well, I can't really date people in my, like they're
yeah,
kind of, there is sort of a thing about they're intimidated, and they end up dating men who are a lot younger than them and maybe not in their same place in life, but there's like
yeah,
an intense physical connection. But then it's like, well, this guy can't keep up with my lifestyle. At a certain point, it's like, I'm tired of paying for everything. And what I've heard from a lot of the women that I've worked with is they say the same thing over and over and over again, almost exactly the same words. They say, I want to be able to be the girl in my relationship.
yeah.
And that's
Mhm.
huge. And it's like,
Yes.
and we don't have to, talk about what that means. We know exactly what that means.
Right, right. Yeah,
You
so I
know?
yeah, so
Yeah.
I was in that industry. I still own the business. My husband, I still own the business, but I mean, I left it. I left it when I really got the calling from spirit because I was into it my whole entire life, and I just decided that I was done with doing the investigations part of it and stepped out on my own. But it was it was really incredible to deal with clients who, all right, so there's a little bit of a change of the dynamic because when I first started 35 years ago, it was always the men was the breadwinner, the woman was stayed at home, she raised the kids, or she had a
Hmm.
part-time job, she left her career. And then it kind of changed to, okay, now the woman went back to work and had a little part-time job, and then it changed to two people had a job. And now it changed to that the woman has the higher paying job and
Hmm.
they're coming to the investigations now because they've got to pay the full alimony, you
Yeah.
know? And so, and like you, we do deal with a lot of very high powered celebrity type people who
Yeah.
entrust our company. It's a really big company. So anyway, so as I ended up going into the spiritual world, I felt very comfortable knowing that I had that sixth sense to help people step out of their comfort zone and understand where they needed to go for the next best steps for them
Hmm.
personally, as a healer,
Yeah.
um, emotions. And like you said, your family almost knew they could pinpoint what was exactly wrong with that, what wrong with their people that used to come and see them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's only going to get bigger, better, and stronger
Right. That's that
within you
intuition, right? Because
because
it's
that's
like,
what's happening with me. That's
yeah, well, the
exactly
more
what's happening with
and the
me.
more that you listen to it, the
Yeah,
louder it is. Like it
yeah,
never goes away, but I'm sure that that's been your experience too. It's
yeah,
like the more that you listen to it, the
yeah.
louder it is,
Yeah, louder it is. Oh my gosh. Okay, so much for the script today. I tend to do that a lot because authentically and organically, I like the conversation to go, as it's supposed to be heard because someone out there is going to hear what we have to say,
Yeah,
and they're going to say, "Oh yeah, you know what? This is going to help me," right?
absolutely.
So, let's touch on about, I mean, now I have a lot of things to talk about. Let's touch on about healing after a breakup. Okay.
Mm.
Then we'll circle back in like how to find love, but
Yeah,
let's get to the nitty gritty because everyone needs healing after
yeah,
the breakup. So
yeah.
give me some of your ways of helping people to cope with emotional pain after a breakup.
Yeah. So there are two kinds of stages, right? There's the stage immediately after the breakup, right? Where it's kind of like you need, it's like you're in the emotional emergency room, right?
Hmm.
Because
Yeah.
it's kind of like you're bleeding and there's trauma, and it's like that's how that feels right afterwards, right?
Yeah.
And so very often, like I've had people, I usually don't have people seek me out right in that stage, but if I've had a client before who's worked with me and then started dating, and then maybe I haven't heard from her in a while, she might come back to me when she's in that stage of like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, rock bottom, right? This horrible thing has happened. Then the second part is when you start to kind of go, okay, this hurts, but the pain is a little bit more, it feels a little bit more numb, like I'm crying, but I'm not constantly crying. And that's when you can kind of start the what we think of as the healing.
Hey, if you haven't already done so, check out my website at dawnricci.com where you can book your appointment with me. If you need expert guidance in finding your own spirituality or maybe thinking about getting back on track with health and well-being, then let's get to it with customized mentoring programs for your personal development. You can find all the information you need at dawnricci.com. Now let's get back to the show.
Right?
Okay.
Because in that first stage, the things that you want to do in that first stage are literally like, what can I do to make my physical self comfortable and get rest? So when someone's in that very first stage, where it feels traumatic, I'm like, you need to take a really warm bath. You need to do things to make you feel safe, comfortable,
Yeah.
and to be able to rest. So it's like take a warm bath with Epsom salts, with lavender oil, because the Epsom salts help to clear your energy and
Yeah.
relax your muscles, and the lavender oil will help to relax you. You
Yeah.
know, make sure everything in the room is dark so that you can actually sleep.
Yeah.
You know,
And you
maybe
can't make sound decisions when you're in that state of
you
mind.
can't and you shouldn't, right?
You
And I
shouldn't.
never try
Right.
to tell people like,
Right.
yeah, we jump into to doing all of this healing work when you're in that state. No,
Yeah.
that's not what that stage is about. That's not
Right.
what it's about, right? It's like if
Yeah.
there's something that gives you comfort to eat it then. We're not going to talk about,
Yeah.
all of the other things that we,
Yeah.
nutrition is for later. We'll figure that out. Ice
Yeah.
cream is for now.
I was just gonna say, get the quarter of ice cream and
Yeah,
have a good, yeah,
we'll
just,
get there.
yeah.
Yeah. If a weighted blanket makes you feel comfy,
Yeah.
have a weighted blanket. It's
Yeah.
like if you need to take time off, take time off. Literally just treat yourself as though because the thing about it is that when we have a breakup, especially if there is any component of like shame involved in the
Yeah.
breakup, of anything like that, we literally feel it creates inflammation in our bodies, and our bodies respond as though we have been struck,
Hmm.
and so we we need to just really baby ourselves like emotionally and physically during that time, like we're recovering from a physical injury is
Yeah.
really what we need to do during that time,
Well,
that point.
infidelity,
Yeah.
infidelity, what I really specialize in with dealing with women, there's so much shame because the first thing that they say, well, I don't, maybe I don't look the same like we were
Yeah.
married, or, I know I've gained some weight, or, I'm 45, 50 years old and, little Miss Thing is now 23. Like, let me tell you, they say, listen, if she's 23 years old, doesn't matter if you look like Christy Brinkley, or I'm dating myself now, but it doesn't matter if you look like, the hottest movie star out there right now. It doesn't matter. That's
Yeah.
23 years behind you, 25 years behind you. It's a
Yeah.
whole different thing. And in fact, what I would probably say is like, your husband's just looking for his youth again. So
Yeah,
there's
it's not
something,
anything to do with his
it
wife's
has nothing
attractiveness
to
at
do with it.
all. It's
Right,
literally that how this younger woman is making him feel about himself.
right,
And plus, she's just, because he's so much older than her, she's like enchanted by the power difference. And she
right,
just is giving him all this credit and kind of like thinking that
right.
he's this amazing guy because he's older or something like that. And also, if you're 20 and you're dating somebody who's that age who you know is married, because most of the time they do,
Yep.
right? If you know that, you're not thinking that you want a great partner or something like that. You're
Right.
thinking that there's something in you that still needs to be healed because you're thinking it's a wonderful thing that you're able to take someone from someone else.
Right.
And like,
You're thinking security. You're thinking,
which doesn't make sense because what was the other woman who was secure
yeah,
do?
I mean,
Like
it's,
you want to be in her position so that
yeah,
someone else can come in
right,
and take everything out from
right.
under you, you
That
know.
just, that scenario, there's nothing good that happens within that scenario. I'm not
But back to the
saying,
shame though, you're right. It does
yeah.
lead to a lot of
Oh,
the
yeah.
feeling that it's something to do with me, that I did something wrong
Yeah,
or
it
I
does.
am something wrong.
Yeah. And then, they feel a sense of abandonment. They feel like, and then they're first in like the denial stage. And then they don't know if it's really happening and they just don't want to think about it. It's just, there's so many feelings that go
Yeah.
on with like a breakup of even a long marriage, a short marriage, or
Yeah.
even just a long relationship. I mean, a lot of
Yeah.
people don't even get married now,
Well, but
and
we can be married spiritually, right?
oh,
Our spirit
absolutely.
can believe where that's one of the things that I work with my clients because sometimes if they're like, I've been divorced, but I'm having a really hard time moving on, we have to
Mhm.
like energetically test and go, are you, they have to test the statement, like, I am married to this person, whether they are legally married or whether they are never legally married.
Right.
And sometimes their body, which is telling us what's in their subconscious, goes, yes. I'm married to that person. So then we have to actually um we have to deal with that marriage. They have a vow of marriage to that person and we have to clear it, you know?
Yeah.
And because if without that we can't really do anything else. They're going to feel like they're married. It's like we're not, like what you and I do isn't like, I'm going to tell you how to just set up your dating profile or tell you places to meet people. Like we understand that before you even think about dating, you have to heal the other stuff.
Yeah.
There is the beginning stage of dating is healing. It's not trying to find someone or to attract someone, right? So it's like when that breakup happens, there are these five huge wounds that I always see. And it's some combination of these five wounds,
Okay.
right? It's like they might have one, they might have all five, they might have some combination. But usually what I see is I see shame as one, which is a really hard one if they don't have anybody to talk to,
Hmm.
right? Because like Brene Brown says, shame thrives in silence and secrecy, right?
Yes.
When they don't have anyone to talk to, that shame builds and it gets to be this really horrible thing. And the shame can be not like I did something wrong, but I am something bad, like you're saying, of them thinking like because I'm
Hmm.
older. It can also be, I can't believe I let this person do this to me for so long. I
Hmm.
can't believe
Yes.
I ignored these signs for so long. I can't believe that I actually trusted him because he did this before. Or I can't believe that I trusted him because I was the one that he did this with last time. And I thought that because we got married, it would be different.
Hmm.
So there are
Yes.
all these different levels of shame or all these reasons that shame come
Mhm.
up, right? So shame's a big one. Confusion is another one. And the reason that I see the way I see confusion come up is I see them say, if only I understood why he did it. If I just understood why he did it. And you know that someone's trapped in like a confusion
Yeah.
loop if they keep talking about closure. Because it's like we don't
Yes.
ever you get closure when you've moved on to another relationship. Like it's strange because you get it, but you don't get it until you don't need it anymore, until you don't care about it anymore. But then you get it,
Yeah.
right? Because like then everything comes out. We can't get closure from the person that screwed us over because they are not self-aware enough about their own wounds and patterns and damage to be able to say to us what happened, right? They
Right.
can't, so anything they say to us is just going to be more hurtful and confusing because they
Yeah.
don't
And
have,
and untruthful. So like,
and not truthful, exactly, because
yeah.
they're going to just be like trying to avoid blame, or they're just not going to know. They
Yeah.
don't have access to the information that's going to give you comfort, right?
Hmm.
So it's not a place to look for that. It's not going to happen there. So I see
Yeah.
confusion a lot as one. Another one that I see is anger. But what's strange is that, especially for women, uh, anger becomes turned inward. So instead of being healthy anger that can be expressed,
Mhm.
it turns inward and then it manifests as illnesses.
Yes.
Because it gets internalized because society isn't comfortable with an angry woman, right? An angry woman gets labeled as crazy. An angry woman gets labeled as hysterical. An angry woman is never labeled as like someone who's expressing anger in a healthy way.
Right.
People don't say that. People don't go, oh, well, that was, justified, right? They
Yes.
go, she's nuts. She's too much to handle. She's
Oh,
whatever.
she's the B word. Yeah.
Yeah, she's crazy. It was always,
Yeah.
it's like she's dismissed and so a lot of times we know on a subconscious level that society is more accepting of our sadness than it is of our anger.
Yeah.
Right? So I will see, sometimes it takes me a while to dig and get to the anger that needs to be healed and expressed and released, right? Because what it's expressing as is grief, which is the fourth wound that I see often, right? And grief can be innocent grief. It can be like, we grew apart and I just miss having this person in my life. It doesn't have to be, if there was no infidelity, and even if you were the one who knew that the breakup needed to happen, you can still have a grief wound.
Yes.
And the thing that's so tricky about the grief wound is like it can be a very innocent, natural thing, but we're still suffering under it. Right.
Yes.
So there's no like, I need to help you clear this. It's not a thing I need to help you clear. It's a thing where you need support in accepting that it's just going to be there. It's going to be there for as long as it's going to be there. And
Right.
it might change over time, but the grief is just what's telling you that that love was important to you, that that love mattered to you.
Right.
That's all
And
that the
then
grief.
releasing that grief, like learning to release the grief. And it's everybody's on their own timeline, right?
Mhm.
But grief and anger, all those things, you said it, manifest disease. And it's a real thing.
Yeah.
I'm actually stepping more into the healing and of the spiritual awareness now. That's really where my work is taking me. And that's what I feel really people have to understand is that's where disease starts festering in and not like taking, digging into your body
Yeah.
because those feelings have nowhere to go. And
Yeah.
so we have to learn how to, you may not understand why they left or understand what's happening in that relationship or why you haven't found the right, but whatever that is, you have to let go and accept, just love you for you and let the universe kind of show you the way.
Yeah. And when you're in grief, I think the other thing about grief that's difficult is that people who aren't going through it are always asking you about it as though it's something that should be resolved.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that we ever really, depending on what the loss was, there are
Mm-hmm.
some losses that we're always going to be different after that. And we are learning to live around it. And for some, it's like that hole is never filled, but we learn
Mm-hmm.
how to live around it. But that's a thing I think that as a society, we have a really uh, a hard time dealing with that, a hard time supporting people as they're going through that. And so when we're going through that, we're not very supported, right? Because people are like, "Are you feeling better yet?" It's
I
kind of
know.
like the line, the
Yeah.
inquiry is always along the lines of like, "Are you better yet?"
Yeah, it's
Or are
true.
you still sad about that?
I know it's true. And yes, that's
Yeah.
very hard. Or I've heard from some clients that like her girlfriend said, well, maybe you should just get like a puppy or something.
Yeah. Like,
Like,
well,
oh boy, that's like not the right answer.
not
I'm like,
helpful.
you just
That's
have
like,
to
maybe
forgive
you
her
should
for her
just
ignorance.
smile. Are you sad? Maybe just be happy.
Yeah, maybe, yeah, just, yeah. It's really hard. And it's really, I think the real takeaway here is to tell, is that so everybody understands is your grief is your grief. And I love your analogy is saying, it's still going to be there, but you're just going to see how you can work around it, not
Yeah,
bury it. We want to be
right.
clear, like not burying it, but you want to work around it, turn those like turn this maybe saying, maybe your spouse, husband died from cancer or a long illness, and that, you just say, I'm never going to get over it. I'm never going to get over it. Okay. Maybe if we just reframe that and say, I'm going to try to work around it, not forget about it, because some people really feel if they forgive if they let that grief go, that's going to be their spouse or their loved one is going to be mad.
Yeah, sometimes they think they're going to be mad, but sometimes they feel like if I let go of it, it means they're forgotten and it's like it
Forgotten.
never happened.
Yeah.
And so I have to remember, I have to hold on to my sadness. I have to carry my sadness with me into the
Yeah.
future because my sadness is my proof that they were here and that I loved them and that they loved me, you know? And sometimes what it is for the rest of us, that are outside of that particular grief is that what we have to do is sit with our own discomfort over loss. Why is it important to me that this person gets past it now? It's because I'm uncomfortable thinking about loss, not because they're doing anything unhealthy. They're
Right.
doing something absolutely natural. I am uncomfortable dealing with it. That means I have crap I need to heal about loss and grief and myself and things I
Mhm.
need to accept about like the nature of grief and like the nature of loss and that it's part of life and that it's going to be expressed and it's going to take its time. Like one thing that I have found in terms of like helping women to grieve is like because a lot of times what we'll do is we'll go, I don't have time. I don't have time to think about that because I'll start crying and I won't be able to stop crying. And I have 80 things that I need to do today and I can't be a mess today. I can't fall apart today. I've got literally just too much to do. Right. And I will have them actually pencil grief in to their calendar. So it'll be
What
like
I'm
whether you
saying.
need to do it before you go to bed or whether you need to whatever, like put it there and then just sit there and wait and it will show up. It will meet you there.
I
Like
think that's a
if
good
you're not,
idea.
because
Yeah.
there's resistance, like the longer we're resisting something, the harder it is to actually, heal with it. The harder, the more it will push its way into our consciousness, the harder we're trying to resist it. So it's more like just make an appointment with it and it will show up, right? And
Yeah.
you'll do it every day. And then there will be some days, there'll start to be days when it doesn't show up,
Yeah.
and then there will be days where maybe you've gone a really long time and it hasn't shown up, and then it will show up unexpectedly
Yeah.
without a trigger that was recognizable. And that has to be okay too,
Right.
you know? So it's like those four things. And then the last thing really that keeps people stuck is fear. And the
Yeah.
reason fear is so tricky is that it doesn't manifest always as fear. It manifests as like somebody looking out for you. I'm just looking out for you. I'm just trying to keep you safe, right? Like somebody's sitting next to you going, you know what? We're not going to do that. We're just going to stay here because we'll be safe. This is the smart thing to do. It's smart for me to do this because it's going to keep me safe. And it's
Mhm.
actually not coming from a place of like, oh, I'm being smart. It's coming from a place of like, um, I am confident that the future will hold bad things for me. The world is a bad place for me. And that's where my beliefs rest. The majority of my beliefs rest in in I have a lot of faith in my fears. I have
Or
a
the
lot of faith.
fear, or the fear of rejection. So if they're saying, nah, it's okay. I'm not going to start dating because,
But
I'm
that's
good.
the same thing, right? It's like
Yeah. Fear
rejection's
of
out there,
rejection.
right? I can't move because rejection's out there. I can't move because
Yeah.
there's nobody out there, so there's going to be scarcity out there. I
Right.
can't move because it's this belief that like I am surrounded in scenarios that are all bad. So I'm just going
Yeah.
to stay right here.
So wait, so we recap them. What is it?
So the first one was shame and then confusion and then anger and then grief and then fear.
There you go, people. You got it.
So
Those are so big. We could go
they're
on and
huge.
there's huge. They're an episode on each one, right?
Yeah. And sometimes we have one of them, but sometimes we've got like three or four or all of
Right,
them, you know?
right.
So
Oh my
yeah.
gosh. So, okay, so let's talk about manifesting love. How
Lo-
can visualization help us to manifest? Or what do you offer people to manifest love into their life?
So visualization is definitely part of it. But the first thing, so the way that it fits into the sequence, right, is that first we heal stuff. We heal
Mm-hmm.
a bunch of stuff. And healing, and I just want to kind of wrap up about healing first because people have misconceptions. Healing is not, I'm repeating a ton of affirmations, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's not healing. Healing isn't like you have to make a mindset shift and that's how we know you've healed. Healing is literally there are energetic issues and structures going on in your energy body right now. It is in the level of subconscious. That's where energy work happens.
Yes.
Once those things are addressed, everything will feel like you're driving without the parking brake on anymore. If you try to do anything without addressing those things, it will feel like you're driving with your parking brake on.
Yeah. That's
So
a
we
really good
deal,
analogy. I love that.
thank you. So we deal with the beliefs that came up. We deal with the energetic ties that you still have to other people. And we deal with any kind of wounds from the breakup. So there's those 5 wounds, and then there are literal energetic structures between us and other people. They can be cords of attachment, they can be
Yeah.
vows of marriage, whatever those
Mm-hmm.
things are. And then specific beliefs we have, like I am too old to date, or I already had the love of my life, or the
Yeah,
only
that's a
way I
huge
can,
one.
yeah, the only way that I can meet is someone is online, and being online sucks, and I don't want to do any of that. Like all of these beliefs that we have that, and a lot of times we're not even aware that they're running in the background, right? I have to lose 10 pounds before I can date.
Hey there, so before we head over to the next episode, I wanted to let you know about my show named Beach Bench Medium, and it's on my YouTube channel. As I passed by beach benches that line the boardwalk, I felt the nudge from Spirit to bring family members to their bench and give them a reading. If you have a bench dedicated to someone you lost, then get in touch with me at hello@dawnricci.com. I would love for you to be on the show. Thanks for listening.